What's happening, everybody? Welcome to this quick impromptu video. Today is January 16th. It is 3:30 for me right now. That's UK time. About 2.5 hours ago, Nintendo unveiled the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, I have to give quite a lot of credit to some of the leakers, specifically Nate the Hate, because he kind of hit this nail on the head, and quite a lot of the recent leaks have done so. But none of this was a surprise. We're kind of expecting all of this information to come out today. Kind of surprised that Nintendo's has shadow dropped the new console like this, but then again, also it doesn't surprise me either. Obviously, they're obviously firing on all cylinders when the original Switch was announced, and you can kind of understand they must have had a lot of fear surrounding the original Switch launch and getting that right, because the Wii U was such a failure. But this time they're taking it safe and careful. They haven't had to have some big fanfare. They know what they're doing. I've no doubt that behind the scenes they're quite angry at a lot of the leaks, because a lot of this has seemed to ring true from what we've seen. But for now, we're just going to have a look at this. I'm going to give some quick impressions of what I think of the device, and we're just going to kind of see how that goes. So first of all, looking at the leaks that have been kind of ramping up within the last few weeks, the last couple of months, especially with this Genki leak, you can tell just by looking at the device on the screen that it was pretty spot on. They've either been provided a console beforehand by Nintendo, or they've managed to get one from a third party or something, or they've had pictures. I'm not really sure what the situation behind the scenes is, but you can see from the renders that they initially put out, you can see that that's quite close to what has actually been presented. With the amount of leaks that we've had so far on this device, nothing was really a surprise. We knew it was going to have magnetic Joy-Cons. We knew it was going to have a second USB-C port. We know pretty much all of the specs already. Despite Nintendo not officially releasing anything, we've seen some pretty good leaks from the people who are manufacturing the products and things like that. We've seen the motherboard. We know roughly what the specs are going to be. We knew there was going to be a second USB-C port. But it's really good now to be able to see officially what Nintendo are putting out, what kind of things that they're going to try and channel into this device. So I think it's really, it's just a relief, basically, just to have all of this information here and not have to kind of sit on the edge of our seats waiting for leaks and things like that. Having waited a couple of hours now, I didn't want to put something out straight after the release because I wanted to give Nintendo a chance to get things like the website updated, and that's currently what we're looking at here. So this is kind of their homepage now on the Nintendo Switch 2. It's going to be weird trying to get used to saying that, but you can see, if you've seen any of the leaks, you'll kind of know what you're looking at. But this is the new Joy-Cons. This is the Switch in the dock. You can see kind of over here, this is where they're not rails anymore, but I'm assuming this is the charging connector for when it slides into the side. It will magnetically lock in. And I know a lot of people have mixed feelings on this. They think it'll be too loose, but you can have some pretty strong magnets. So I don't think that's going to be a major issue at all, especially considering the Switch 1, the original Switch, had quite a lot of issues with the rails wearing out and the Joy-Cons kind of just sliding out of the system. So I think this will be this won't wear over time. There seems to be quite a hefty button on the back, which I'll show you in a minute, that facilitates removing them. So I think if that's kind of required, you're not going to be able to do it by hand, so I'm not too worried about that. But you can see the general design is exactly the same as the other controllers, the original controllers. They are slightly larger, and we'll have a look at the kind of intro video in a minute. They are slightly larger here, but the basic layout is exactly the same. You've got your separate directional buttons. Again, I know people have mixed feelings, but if you're going to have, Joy-Cons that come apart and you can use as individual controllers, that's kind of the compromise you have to make. But again, it's all following the same design language as the original controllers. You've got the lights over here, which is exactly the same as the originals. I do believe that them being able to face the player is different now. I do believe they were on the side on the original. I haven't got mine here to hand to double check. But it's good that you're going to kind of see that at a glance. And again, it will come through. This is the like the Joy-Con grip, I think it was called. Again, kind of magnetizes themselves in there, so it all kind of it's all very similar to the original. It's just been refined. As you can see, there's this new button down here. A lot of the publications before were kind of talking about this as being a C button, and a lot of the renders had the letter C on the actual button itself. But what I noticed straight away in the video was there was no C, and again, you can see it right here. There is no C letter on here. So what this button is for exactly kind of remains to be seen, but we're not too sure. Some of the leaks are talking about the updated kind of online features that this console is going to have, and being a quick button for that. Others are talking about potentially casting it to the screen, and I think it would be more along the lines of kind of social features. I don't think it'll have anything to do with screen sharing to the TV or anything through the dock. I think if they would have, if that was one of the main features of the device, they would have shown that in the trailer. Scrolling down then, you've got an overview of the device here, kind of a 3D render. It's all very Apple-esque. They're obviously trying to go up market, but it gives you a chance to see the device from a few different angles. Now, we don't have any kind of official 3D models that we can kind of have a look at, but you can kind of see some of the latest features. So the body is obviously very sleek, looks very similar to the Switch OLED, which I think is very nice. Let's have a look. Again, you can see how the controller is kind of magnetically attaching itself there and there. You've got the speaker grills on the bottom. Around the sides, again, speaker grills here, the new buttons. You've got the U-shape stand on the back, which again was shown in kind of leaked pre-release renders and models and things like that, and it does fold all the way back, which is something I was worried about because that's a feature I really love from the OLED model. Just how much sturdier that stand is compared to the likes of the original Switch. My original Switch, the stand just doesn't work. As soon as you try and lean up against something, it just snaps and pings off. Carrying on, they have now confirmed, I know they've talked about it in a press release beforehand a little while ago, but they've obviously now put it a bit simpler here for kind of the everyday Joe parents and things like that who are looking. You can play Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive games as well as Nintendo Switch games on Nintendo Switch 2. So your original cartridges will work, as it says, both physical and digital Nintendo Switch games. So your Nintendo eShop purchases will carry over as well, which I think is a brilliant move. Nintendo famously haven't been very good at honouring the purchases you've made. If you looked at the Wii U and the 3DS, you could buy a kind of a virtual console game on the Wii U, and you'd have to repurchase it to play it on the 3DS, even if it was the same game. And it's not something that kind of worked very well. Other companies, Sony, Microsoft, they've been doing that for years, even looking over at the likes of Apple and purchasing on devices there. The world has operated like that now for a long time, and I think it's good that Nintendo are finally catching up. That is the only information we've received so far on kind of any online features. Obviously your Nintendo account will carry over, your purchases will carry over. We don't know anything about social interactions. We don't know if there's any new features in terms of voice chat or kind of sending messages to people, things like that. Hopefully there is, hopefully they're starting to learn. I'd assume so, especially with the new app that they've released where you can do voice chat. You need to have it on a mobile device, which is a bit silly in my opinion, but I'm hoping that's kind of leading the way towards Nintendo allowing voice chat on their new console. For this final part here, you've got a couple of bits of information. So we obviously have been confirmed to have a Nintendo Direct on the 2nd of April. It's a few months away, which is, it's going to be radio silence from here on out, which is a bit of a shame, but at least we've got confirmation now. But this is where I think they'll look into the hardware specs, hardware, software features, potentially some games that are going out. We did get a slight sneak peek at possibly a new Mario Kart. On the reveal trailer, which was really cool. We will have a look at that in a second. But it is really interesting to kind of think about and speculate what they're going to be showing us at that reveal, at the Nintendo Direct, about what more this system can do. I know hardware-wise, it's very similar to the original Switch, bar obviously spec bumps and minor tweaks, but I think with this generation, it's going to be all about the software. So are we going to have things like NVIDIA's new DLSS kind of technology? Are we going to be able to have ray tracing? We're going to be able to bump up some of the games that we're going to be able to play using AI and things like that. So I think looking into the software features that are available to developers as well as to us consumers with the social interaction and things like that, I think it'll be quite interesting to kind of see what they're going to talk about in April. And with April, kind of again looking at how Nintendo went with the release schedule of the original Switch, I think we're looking at a May or June, and a lot of people seem to agree, but a May or June release window is what I'm going for. I don't think they'll push it back to later on in the year, purely because I think they're going to want to start getting units out now, have one big launch title to try and get people drawn in, and then they'll have another big hitter maybe September, October time, right before the holidays, get people in and buying, which is exactly the same kind of strategy they took with the original Switch, and that did work quite well. This final section here is kind of tailored to where you are located. It shows your local what they're going to call the Nintendo Switch 2 experience. So my local is London, obviously I'm in England, but it's a hands-on event. You need to register, the tickets are free, but it is kind of drawn out of a hat system. So it'll basically be an event. You can go and get hands-on experience, have a look. A lot of these dates, it's being done all around the world. So, it'll be in LA, New York, lots of European countries, some Asian countries as well, and the dates are all kind of varying from right at the end of March up until the very beginning of June. That's another reason why I think that we're having a June release, because they're going to want to get all of these hands-on experiences for the press and for people, consumers, to have a look at. All of that done before the console's released, otherwise you'll be able to just kind of go into your local game shop and have a look. So I'm thinking June release, that's when it's going to be. My local one is London, and you can click here to find out more. And then obviously we've got the first look trailer here, which we'll have a look at in a second. But just looking at the initial trailer here, obviously this is very similar to how they announced the Switch 1. They didn't talk about anything. They just showed a video of it being played and the main features. And obviously they had to explain the concept of a hybrid console. But here, they're more so focusing on the differences. Now, what's setting this apart from the original Switch? So we've got the USB-C on the bottom. We've got the power button here, volume buttons on the side. Again, very similar to the original system and the OLED. You've obviously got grills and things here. I am wondering what the likes of this here is. Is that a grill? Maybe it's a microphone for some voice chat features. We don't really know what that's for. Initially I thought it might have been a headphone jack, but if you come over here you can see that right there. Coming around here we've got the U-shaped stand, which I'm not sure how I feel about the aesthetics of this. I do prefer the OLED, the way that it's kind of one bar. It reminds me very much of the kind of older Microsoft Surface tablets, which I did think was quite a sleek design, but it retains the full functionality of the OLED model. So it does, as you can see, folds flat, well, near enough flat, which again is something I really liked about the OLED model. Snapping shut, it shows us the controllers. So right here we can see from the design, they're practically identical. It's obviously more curved as you come around here, so the hand feel is probably going to be a bit different. The profile of the analog stick has changed somewhat, and the buttons seem to very slightly be enlarged. Again, that's exact comparison size to size, but they have increased the size. So if you take this is the size of the original controller, and comparing it to the size of the new one, they've obviously got a lot bigger. I am very happy about that. I was never one of those people that thought the original controller was uncomfortable to hold. Always thought it was quite comfortable for laid-back, stress-free gaming. When things do get a bit tense, then my hand would cramp, especially during a Mario Kart match. I tend to grip it quite tight, so my hands do hurt. I do find the Pro Controller is a bit easier to hold, so I usually just go with that if I'm doing anything intense. But I do find that with any controller. It's the DualSense, the Xbox controller, the DualShock 4, 3, all of those things, I get the same thing whenever I'm kind of in a tense moment and gripping it quite hard. So I think this will be quite a bit easier and a bit more comfortable to hold, which I'm looking forward to. Not sure how children are going to find this. I know that children are a big market for Nintendo, and the kind of family members I've got that have played PlayStations and then the Switch, they've had a better time with the Switch, with their smaller hands, the smaller buttons. But we'll see. We'll have to see what it feels like in our hands to kind of figure that out. For now, it's not a drastic change, which is good. Coming over here, we're looking at obviously the new colour. So it's this sleek black with... This isn't the red from the original. The other side is the same blue from what it looks like, but this looks more like a corally pink, almost similar to the pink Joy-Con that they've got, or the pink Switch Lite. It's not the same orange, at least from these renders anyway. We'll have to see what it looks like in person. Not entirely sure how I feel. I was one of the people who really liked the colour from the original Joy-Cons. I liked how bright and vibrant they were. I didn't know anyone who went for the standard grey model. That seemed to be a bit of the safe choice, a bit of the boring choice. I myself did go for the colourful model. And again, I felt the same way with the Switch OLED when they brought out the white version. I thought it was a bit safe and a bit boring. I never actually upgraded myself to the OLED model because mine kind of worked as it was. A bit of a regret, but I was a bit stumped because I didn't want to get the same colour combination with the colourful Joy-Cons that they released, because it did look very similar to the original model. I wanted something that would set it apart from the original model, which for that you'd have to get the white one. But I wish they would have included one of the other colour combinations that they sell, the kind of single packs and the combo packs of the Joy-Cons. I wish they'd included that instead of the white, you know, or maybe keep the white as a replacement for the grey model and then replace the blue and red with, you know, the green and yellow or something like that. But I'm sidetracking here. The new controllers do look very sleek. I do like them. I wish there was a bit more colour rather than that, especially when, you know, if I play on TV mode, I'm using the Pro Controller. That's the way I'm playing. I don't hold these Joy-Cons on their own. So if I can see, if you're holding the Joy-Con on its own, you get this extra kind of sticky out bit here, which shows how it shows the colour off to you, so that would be a bit better. But if you're holding a Pro Controller, you're not going to get that, and the only benefit you are going to get is this little ring right here, and I just wish there was a little bit more than that. But looking at the side profile then, I don't know how well you can see this, but we have returned, well, not returned, we're carrying on with the Y screws. They have got a fancy name for it. I don't remember what it is right now, but it's the standard Nintendo, we don't want you in our thing, so don't use our screws type of scenario. We've got the sync button. Again, standard on pretty much all Nintendo things now. The SL and the SR buttons have been increased in size quite dramatically compared to the others, which I think is perfect. I know on the original we had those kind of grip things that would kind of clip on and make those buttons a bit easier to press, but I found them a nightmare to get just on and off the Joy-Con, just to begin with, as well as then the buttons were very mushy to press, and I never ended up using them anyway. Whenever the few times I played with the controller on its side, sharing the Joy-Cons as individual controllers, I never bothered with that thing, and I just struggled with the little buttons. So I'm glad that they've put a bit more thought into how that's going to feel. You can see the new connector for how I'm assuming it's going to sync and charge. Obviously they were hidden by the rails on the original, but I think it's pretty good that they're kind of being open with where it is. You can be a bit careful, and it should kind of seamlessly connect on, so I'm happy with that. You've got the power lights, we've already discussed that. You can just see a tiny glimpse of the optical sensor. Again, we'll get to that further on. Flipping round, this is the other side of the controller. Again, the same story, the large buttons, the sync. One thing that I think is quite interesting, you can see both of these controllers have an optical sensor. So we know from this trailer, viewing further on, that these are going to be able to use in the same way as a mouse, which for those I've seen examples of like the new Civ games, or maybe even like first-person shooters and things like that. That might be it'll be a bit easier. Unsure as to why they've included it on both, considering you'd only really use one, but maybe it's to do with things like IR features, like infrared. Couldn't really see, I've had a quick look, I couldn't really see an infrared sensor on the bottom like we have in the original Joy-Cons, so maybe this sensor is going to replace that for the very few games that need that type of thing. Typically these sensors, they're quite short throw sensors, so you can't really, whatever is immediately in front of it, that's what it can pick up, hence why, you know, your optical mouse, for example, it won't work, 10 centimeters off the table, but it will work when it's sat on there. Maybe it's got some upgraded hardware that means it can pick up something from further away when it needs to. So again, we'll have a look and see how it all plays out. But you can see from these, obviously you've got the little button up here, which is, I'm assuming, how you're going to remove it on and off. Either that, or it'll be the same button on the back. It'll be magnetically attached. Not really too sure. Try and get a bit of a good view of the straps, but the straps do look an awful lot. Again, can't really see that too well, but they do look a lot better in terms of quality, and how you're going to be able to kind of attach them to your wrist. I think for games where you are going to be swinging this around, Nintendo Switch Sports, for example, I think that's going to be a lot easier and a lot simpler to use and make it a bit more worthwhile rather than just risking it. This is something I'm looking forward to quite a lot. I wish the thread would have been the same color as the kind of Joy-Cons here, sticking kind of with the pattern. Again, it's a lot more muted in terms of the color, but I wish they would have had a little bit more flair like they did on the actual clip. But we'll have to see what color combos they have on release. Again, I think it's good that they've got the colour inside where the Joy-Cons are going to clip in, but again, you're not going to see that all the time. You can see bits of the colour seeping through. Got a bit of the blue there and a bit of the pinky orange there, but it's not a lot, so I'm hoping we do get some more colours around release. Especially with looking at the original Switch launch, they only really teased the original grey model up until right before, so I'm hoping we get a bit more choice, and this isn't it, but we'll have to see. This is where they released the name, Nintendo Switch 2. This logo, funnily enough, is very similar to some of the ones I'd seen leaked. I think the fonts were slightly different, but I was actually surprised that they went with a numbered naming thing. It's not really something they've done before. I think it was a very safe choice for Nintendo to do. I think they were worried about making the same mistakes as the Wii U. which can't blame them for. But with the Wii U, they've obviously the console was very similar in terms of its appearance, in terms of its name, as its predecessor, the Wii, and that really did harm them, with a lot of the kind of casual audience not understanding that it was a new console and more so thinking it was an accessory. So rather than creating a device that looks very similar to the Nintendo Switch and calling it something very different, I think it's the right choice to make, but it's also a very safe choice to make. In announcing it as the Nintendo Switch 2, you instantly know that it's the second generation product. It's not an upgrade in terms of, you had the DS, the DSi, or the Wii and the Wii U. It's not. It very clearly marks out that it is a new console, it's a new system, and it will have new software for it. This is where we get quite interesting. Mixed feelings on this. Not on the fact, so this is the only game we get to look at in this trailer. It is obviously going to be the next in the series of Mario Kart. Again, gathering that because this course looks new, doesn't look like one we've seen before. Again, I might do a proper in-depth analysis on this trailer, but again, just having a quick look through. First of all, you can see it is obviously very Nintendo-y, very Mario Kart-y. You can see all the trademark characters here, kind of looking in. You've got Toad and Rosalina and things like that here, and you can tell her kart looks very interesting. It's kind of got tracked wheels here, which I think is quite cool. It'd be interesting to see what types of kart customizations we're going to get. And again, here you can tell that this is a very different type of kart that we're used to, but looking closely in the background, I'm not massively impressed, if I'm honest. The textures don't look amazing. And again, Mario Kart isn't obviously very detailed, it's very cartoony. But I can't see a massive difference, if I'm honest, between Mario Kart 8, especially some of the new tracks with the booster pack. There isn't a lot of difference that I can see kind of graphically. And I know that Mario Kart isn't always on the bleeding edge of graphics. It's just meant to be a cool, fun, single multiplayer kind of karting game. But it is something I wish, we had a bit more shown off to us. Maybe some, if there's going to be ray tracing features or things like that. I would have liked to have seen at least a little sneak of something to kind of hint that we're going to get something like that. Not saying that this is bad at all, though. This does look stunning, and I am, after 10 years of playing Mario Kart 8, I'm ready for a new one. So whether they call it Mario Kart 9, Mario Kart 10, or whatever they want to call it, I am very interested to see how this goes. Here we've got the new dock. Again, very similar to the other systems. I don't think, from what we've seen of leaked renders and 3D models and things like that, people have 3D printed, I don't think that they are going to be interchangeable between the docks. I think there's holes on the bottom that line up to little prongs here and here in the dock that kind of slide in. I don't think they'll allow intercompatibility, which is a shame, because if you've got a Nintendo Switch with a dock already, it would have been good to have a second. You can use it on a second TV, but again, we'll have to wait and see. We've got the typical light that lets you know that it's attached to the TV, which again is very similar. It's obviously shorter at the front here, and you can still see a bit of the screen. I did see some mock-up renders of a version of this where a portion of the screen remained on and could show you things like notifications and the time and things. And I thought that was a very cool idea. I wish they would have included something like that, but with the amount of space that's visible, I don't think something like that would be very good. Again, maybe it's something they'd kind of hold off on for a future model or something like that, I don't know, but again, a little bit disappointing. We get a look there of the grip and how things will attach. We won't be sliding them in, they snap onto the side, which again, I'm hoping it's as satisfying as it looks. In the background here, we've obviously got some more footage of that Mario Kart game. You can tell, again, things like the texture here looks very nice and very good. Obviously, it's very grainy, it's a YouTube video. But the way the game looks and everything, I am hopeful. And I think once we see some more footage of this game and some other games, I think my faith will be restored somewhat. Donkey Kong does look a bit weird over there, I will just point out. But you can just kind of see the scope of this. I mean, this is a very long kind of straightaway here, and with these kind of backgrounds and things and how much detail is off on the side, I think we could be in for a treat with how good this game looks and how it feels, and I'm hoping we get some more features. Otherwise it may feel a little bit disappointing, but we'll have to wait and see. 2025, so it is confirmed it's coming out this year. Again, there's another little note here about the intercompatibility with the games. No information yet on whether or not we get any automatic performance boosts, kind of with the same as the PS4 and the PS5, where some games can have increased frame rate and resolution and things like that. There's no word on any of that yet, only that it is compatible. So I have to see how they handle that. I'm not entirely sure what they'll do, but either way, should hopefully be good. Nintendo Direct, again, same information that we've got on the website, and again, more information here about the Nintendo experiences for the hands-on events. So that is all of the information that we've received so far from Nintendo. They took their sweet time in announcing it, and I think they're trying to have this kind of mysterious kind of stubbornness to the brand in a very similar way as Apple. You know, they take the approach of we'll release it when we'll release it, we'll announce it when we'll announce it. And you can tell from some of the renders and things that they're going for that kind of feel to make it seem very premium, very nice, which I do actually get myself, so that's going to be good. Looking forward to this. We'll have to see what happens in April with the Direct, but for now, there's obviously going to be lots of talk about this, lots of buzz. I, for one, cannot wait for it to come out, especially if it kind of improves some of the games I've already got existing, and hopefully Nintendo do well with it. I hope it doesn't turn into another Wii U, where it kind of flops compared to the last one. I hope they're able to at least continue the momentum. I think COVID did a lot for the system, especially with the release of Animal Crossing, and I think that was a big part in what's led to 150 million console sales. I don't know whether this will have the same legs, but I'm hoping they get somewhere close, and I'm hoping it's something similar. I hope that Nintendo can kind of establish themselves now as a brand that's niche in a sense. It sets itself apart from the typical PlayStation and Xbox. It doesn't need to fight itself in that war. It is its own kind of thing, and I like the way they're handling it. I've looked into competitors like with the Steam Deck and the Ally and things like that, and I don't think that that's necessarily the way to do handheld gaming. I think they're too big, they're too bulky, they're too loud, they're very power hungry, and it negates some of the portability. Even with the PlayStation Portal, I do have one of those, and I do use it quite extensively, but I do find it's quite cumbersome and quite heavy after a couple of hours, and my hands do start to hurt. So I like that Nintendo aren't just kind of racing to copy the rest of the competition, and they are still doing their own thing. And I'm excited for what the future holds. I think we'll be able to carry on the success, hopefully, of the Nintendo Switch 1. We'll get some pretty good first-party things, and I'm pretty sure from what we've heard in terms of leaks and rumours that the third-party support is going to be pretty good as well. So for the people out there who kind of think this will flop, I don't agree. I think it'll do good. And yeah, that's kind of all from me. that's my quick thoughts and impressions on the Nintendo Switch 2. This video ended up being a lot longer than I thought, kind of a ramble fest. I know it's not my typical content, but I thought I'd kind of just get my thoughts out there and let you guys know that I'm also still here and around. So with that, thank you all very much for watching. I will speak to you guys again soon, possibly about Nintendo Switch news, possibly about some other games. If there's anything else you'd like to see on the channel, please let me know, and I will see you guys later. Bye bye.